today, if you watch this video, you're going to get information, the know-how on how to beat a DUI, ideally before you're arrested for a DUI. Unfortunately, in Tennessee, there was big news coming out because of legislation that changed on reporting DUIs, and 2,547 sober people were arrested for DUI from 2017 to 2024. I want to applaud Senator, and forgive me for the maybe mispronunciation, Ramesh Akbari, for helping pass this legislation to have accountability. If you shine the light on people and hold them accountable, law enforcement in this case, hopefully those wrongfully arrested will decrease and end in the near future. So this is just the beginning because the law was recently passed. I did a video yesterday where 419 sober people were arrested in 2024 alone. And then I saw the article and got the data from the news that 2,547 people, sober people, were arrested from 2017 to 2024. This is unacceptable, and the officers that consistently do this need to be retrained or not used. And so if you're stopped for a DUI in Tennessee, then you don't have to do the field sobriety test. I would highly recommend not doing those. Those are designed for you to fail, and so don't do the field sobriety test. Make sure your hands are in a place where the officer can see them, so you reduce the tension in that situation. But if you want to avoid a DUI, don't drink and drive. However, a lot of people are getting arrested for DUI even though they're not drinking or doing drugs. One second. And so don't drink and drive. That's the best way to avoid a DUI. And if you are arrested for a DUI, you definitely need to call an attorney right away. Invest in the best attorney you can to fight your case, because you should win it if you have no drugs and alcohol in your system and you're charged with DUI. So probably one of the reasons people are arrested for DUI, even though they haven't drank or haven't done drugs. I know a lot of my clients that this has happened to, even if they had one drink, the symptoms of being tired, if you're working late, if you're a nurse or you work a job, factory, or a doctor, anything like that, if you work late or you work long hours, those symptoms are going to look similar to an officer. And so make sure you're honest and say, I haven't had anything to drink, I haven't had any drugs, and don't do the field sobriety test. Very important. You won't lose your license if you don't do the field sobriety test. The implied consent law is different. If you don't agree to give your blood or breath, then you do stand to lose your license for a year. And so one of the downsides to sober people getting arrested is the cost. There's cost associated with defending yourself, and I highly recommend that everybody has a legal defense fund. You never plan on being arrested, and you never plan on getting arrested for a DUI, especially if you've been drinking. If you haven't been drinking or you don't do drugs. So I always recommend having a legal defense fund, whether it's for a crime you actually may have done, for a crime you're falsely accused of, whether it's defend against a civil suit if you're a property owner and you get sued. You want to make sure you have the insurances, of course, but it's really important, especially in this day and age, that you have a legal defense fund. Not many people that I know have budget for this, but it's really important. That's one way you can protect yourself, is to start saving up for this emergency. And hopefully you never need it, but it's always good to have it there if you and when you need it. Part of getting arrested not only costs for attorney and all of the defense, but you miss work, you are stressed, you're anxious, you're overwhelmed. There's a lot of costs that go with this. Not to mention, especially if you're wrongly accused of a DUI, now it's on your record. You have to try to remove that, along with not only the clerk's records and have it expunged, because if it's dismissed, then you can expunge it usually at no cost to you. The clerk will expunge it for you. But then it's also in the database of the sheriffs and the law enforcement that you've been arrested, even though you didn't have any alcohol or drugs in your system. So my hope is that this awareness to this problem will increase the accountability to law enforcement, to the district attorney's office, and we will see this drastically go down over time, over a short amount of time. And so I don't know the data. I would love to see the data on from 2017 to 2024, if the trend was going up or if it was the same amount each year. I did see in a news article that it was 2.5% of the DUIs. So 2,547 is 2.5% of the total DUI. So there's a lot of DUIs in Tennessee. This is a small fraction of them, but like I learned in law school, we learned that it's better for 9 guilty people to go free than 1 innocent person be arrested and have a conviction. And so that's what we need to do. We need to go towards nobody that's not committing a crime getting arrested. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through this, briefly, and then we'll open up to frequently asked questions or questions and answer if anybody has any questions. So the best way to avoid a DUI is to just not drink and drive. However, if you're 2.5% of the people in Tennessee from 2017 to 2024, you still might be arrested for a DUI. So if you are, whether you were drinking or doing drugs and driving or you weren't, you definitely want to get help, get an expert that focuses on DUIs like we do, DUI Nash, and it's to fight your case. So we have 3 goals in every case, and they are: number 1, we fight to keep you out of jail because jail sucks. Number 2, we fight to limit the damage to your record. So not having a DUI, having a reckless endangerment or aggravated reckless driving is better than a DUI in most cases. The exception is if you're an immigrant to this country, then a reckless endangerment could have immigration consequences because it's a specific intent crime. And the third goal on all of our cases, when we're fighting DUIs, is to help get your life back on track. Ideally better than when you started, because one of the most common reasons I see people getting in trouble is because they start drinking or doing drugs to feel better. That turns into a habit. It may turn into addiction. And then next thing they know, they're getting arrested. And so if you don't learn new habits and coping mechanisms throughout this process, it's very possible that you can get another one again in the future. And that just gets worse and worse. For every DUI that you get, it gets worse and worse. Like, for example, the DUI minimums on jail, the DUI jail minimums on a first is 48 hours. If your blood is 0.08 to 0.149, if it's 0.15 or higher, then you're looking at 7 days jail. DUI second is 45 days jail. DUI third is 120. DUI fourth and beyond are felonies, and that's 150 days in jail. And if you hurt or kill anybody, you're looking at 8 to 40 years in prison. So it's just best not to drink and drive. And if whether you were arrested incorrectly, whether you were sober, or whether you actually had something to drink or had some drugs in your system and showed signs of impairments and you're arrested, you definitely want to get an attorney that focuses on DUIs. It's like this. It's like you wouldn't go to your primary care doctor to have them operate on your heart, and you wouldn't go to them to operate on your brain if you needed a brain surgery. So you don't want to just get a general attorney. You want somebody that focuses on that. We focus on that. We help great people fight their DUIs here in Tennessee. And again, we're not selling anything, but if you need help, then we're here to help. We offer free consultations, and we hold your hand every step of the way. So if you have any questions, just put them in the comments. At least on YouTube, I can see them. And if not, we'll keep on rolling. The unfortunate thing for these sober people that were arrested is they had to incur tons of costs. And for my clients or people that contact me, I send a list of all the costs, because it's not just the investment in the attorney that you have to think about. We want our clients to know exactly what the costs are ahead of time, and we're going to go through those. So we have a DUI criminal case pricing worksheet that we send to people that contact us. If you're interested in it, go to 615nashlaw.com and just submit a form and ask for that sheet, and we'll give it to you. Usually when you're arrested for DUI, one of the first things that happens is that you go to jail, and then you have to either post bail with the clerk or you bond out with a bonding company. So there's your first cost. Then second one is and these aren't necessarily in a particular order, but we'll just go through them in this order. The second one, going to court and dealing with all this involves sometimes missing work. So then you have a cost of lowered income. The third cost is ignition interlock device. So sometimes part of the bond conditions, you have to have an ignition interlock device. And if you're not familiar with this is a device that goes on your car. And if you, in order to start your car and keep it running, you have to blow on the device and it'll calibrate what your BAC is. And it will only start if it's under the legal limit or under a certain limit, and only keep it going if it's under a certain limit. And so there's cost associated with this. So you have to be aware of that. Look at your bond conditions, make sure you comply with those, because if you don't comply, they can put you back in jail. The next, oftentimes, if it's a DUI second or higher, you might be required to get a transdermal ankle monitor, and that's where it goes on, of course, on your ankle or your ankle area, and it tells you, it monitors your blood alcohol content, and it notifies them electronically whether you have drinking alcohol or not. In rare cases, you need a GPS ankle monitor. That's pretty rare for DUI. You will or possibly incur towing and impound fees. And so if your car is towed and impounded, if it's part of an investigation, you won't be able to get that out until the investigation's over. And either way, when you go to get your car out, there's going to be costs associated with that. And they're pretty pricey when you go to do that. If your attorney recommends, or one second.